now I want to go out and tell you a little story about the engine. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. Last week we left off with the motor started, which we accomplished our goal with that, and then it all went downhill. It sounded really bad. Andy thought it was something really serious, and we're going to try this episode to figure out exactly what it is, and hopefully this whole project is not a total bust, just because if that engine's trashed, then it's just not worth the project. So let's see what we can find out. Okay, I'm inside the truck here, and I picked up the scanner, and these are the codes that it's throwing, which that first one, charge air cooler, outlet temperature, sensor circuit, high voltage, that was probably it threw when that got smashed in the wreck. I'm not going to clear any of this in case we need it later, but then all these glow plug modules not programmed, we know all that. I'm not sure what that reductant pressure sensor circuit range performance is, but this last one is the one I'm thinking could cause an issue. So crankshaft position sensor circuit range performance. So if we click that, it says it could have a faulty crankshaft position sensor, damaged reluctor ring, missing teeth or not turning due to sheared off keyway, opener shorted in the crankshaft position sensor circuit, broken timing belt. So I doubt it's any of that internal stuff. It's probably a sensor that was on that side. I just got to try to figure out where that is and look at it and see if it's broken or what's going on with that. But a bad crankshaft position sensor could cause a knock sound like that in the engine. So we got to try to figure that out and see if it needs to be replaced or if it's unhooked or what's going on with it. Okay, so what I've decided to do is I've got a friend that's a mechanic that I'm going to take this truck to and let him start it and listen to it. He's got a more sophisticated computer than I do that he can hook to it and see if there's any way that crankshaft position sensor could cause a knocking, because I don't see any damage that there's anything from the wreck that could cause a knocking sound in the engine, if it is in the engine. But it sounds like it to me, but I don't know. So I want another set of ears and eyes on this thing. So we will take it to him and see what he says, and then if everything's okay and we can figure out like what that is, maybe get that sensor changed or whatever we need to do, then we have to go talk to the frame guy and figure out what's involved in getting this done. So we're kind of as far as we can go up here on the motor, so I can't take it to him for another couple of days. I'm going to go ahead and get this back bumper off. We've got, that dent right over there, which looked like it was caused by a trailer at one point, probably. So we'll take it off and get it inside, and we have to, before the frame guy can do anything, we have to have that front bumper, the new one, braces and everything mounted to it on the inside so he can check spacing and everything on those two frame horns. And I might as well take this one off where I can be working on it, switching everything over while the truck is gone. So finish getting it off. The hard part about it is you have to loosen bolts for the bed to the frame. I remember this on our last truck. There's 6 or 8 bolts that we got to take off, and we'll get a jack under there and lift up the bed just enough where the braces behind this bumper kind of go back up underneath the lip of the bed, so it has to go up just a couple inches, maybe an inch, so that those braces can slide out. So we'll get that started. There's about 1 million bolts holding this back bumper on, and by the time you take off all the bed mounting bolts, you got to take off the back 3, I think. There's one right up in this thing, one in the very back, and then another one right up there. You get all those off, and then you can jack it up, a couple inches. Get all the bolts off for the bumper. So now I'll drop the bed back down and put a couple bolts back in just to hold it while we're moving it around, and then we'll lift it back up when we put the bumper back on. All right, well, I'm here in the shop, and I've got the truck front bumper up here on this stand, and it is the mangled mess over here on this. This was the right side, passenger side, and this driver's side is really good shape. Most of the stuff is not bent over here. So what I want to do is I need to get all this apart and see what's savable, if anything, which I don't think there's much other than that stuff over there. And then I'm going to put our new stuff over on this other stand, and we'll transfer what's good from that one to the new one and see what stuff we don't have that we still need to order. I have a lot of parts here, like I've got all those braces. I got a box that's got our wiring harness in it. Here's our filler piece. That's the bottom piece. That's the actual bumper in that box there. And then we got to do the same thing to the rear bumper. But for now, let's see what we got going here. I know I had to order a couple sensors, parking sensors that were smashed, but I think we might have just about everything else. So let's see. All right, so here is what's left of this destroyed bumper, and it was smashed. And I've got this one's going. Got this bottom piece all bolted in. I've got our new wiring harness in. So now I'm going to start putting the big braces in where all these bolts hold it on. And this filler piece that goes back up behind that holds the two black parking sensors. We'll just keep going. I've got the little pieces that hold these sensors right here are silver. One of them needs to be painted, and the other one is on order. So those can just snap in after we get the rest of it done. All right, so here it is all assembled except for this piece right here. There's a little corner brace that goes right there like that one, and it should be here today. All right, so I've got that corner piece in, and I also got all my little sensor pieces in that I was missing. I've got all them installed. All right, here it is. So this is our first piece of Paul's truck rebuilt. So some of the old pieces in here, and mostly new on this piece because it was right smack in the brunt of all the hit. So looks really good. So now we'll put this thing aside and store it until we're ready to start reassembly of the truck. And we'll jump over here to the rear bumper, which I've already started taking apart a little bit. I've got this piece out. And remember, the reason we're taking this out is because it's got some dents on the chrome here. So I've got a new chrome piece, but we got to get all this stuff taken off of it just to replace the chrome. So let's get that started. All right, so this piece is completely disassembled. Got every bolt out. There was a couple that were hard to get out because you can't get an impact on them. Where they are, you just have to man it up and hit it with a regular socket. But everything's off there except I gotta get this little ring piece off. for the spare tire lock. And I got to ask Paul what he wants to do about this black piece, if he wants to replace it or use this one. That's it. So next we'll start putting it back together. Okay, so I've got my new bumper here next to the old one. What we got to do is transfer all these little clips over to this one and that ring right there. Get all that done, and then we'll start putting our wiring harness in and all these big heavy braces and stuff like that. Just get it all transferred over. And Paul does want to reuse the black plastic piece, which still looked good when we got it off, so I got it cleaned up really good, and then I'm going to put some treatment on there to make sure it stays good and black, and then it should look really good when we're done. All right, so here's the new bumper, all back together. Needs to be cleaned, of course, but looks really good. So front and back bumper finished, and now I want to go out and tell you a little story about the engine. All right, so the last time we talked about this the actual truck part was when I talked about the engine. You heard it when I started up for the first time, and it sounded really bad. And so I told you I was going to go take it to my friend Carl, who's got a shop that was going to look at and see if there's some kind of internal engine damage. So he put his scanner on it, and it showed a dead number 3 cylinder. Oh no! But he said the way it sounded like it was top end, and so, which is a good thing. He talked to a buddy of his who said a lot of times what happens when on a wreck on these things, if there's an over rev situation, like if the guy that whenever he hit whatever he was going to hit, if his foot like floored it while it was just in one spot, that it could have bent a push rod. So Carl dug down in through all this. It's number 3 cylinder, so the head is, or the valve cover is way like back and behind there. So he had to take all this off, dig down in there, pulled the valve cover off, and sure enough, number 3 cylinder push rod was bent. So we ordered a new push rod, valve cover gasket, fuel rail gaskets, put it all back together, and starts right up, and it's nice and quiet. So that's a big hurdle, and Paul was extremely glad that that's the way it turned out. So we have a good engine, sounds good, and now it's back here, so I can start. The next thing is to really needs is to figure out what's going on with the frame here, like if it can be pulled or if it has to be cut and a new little front clip put on. But Mike has to check that, and he is on vacation, so while I'm waiting on him to get back, I'm going to go ahead and jump on the interior and get these seats out and the center console out so we can get the airbag module out and get it shipped off. And the seat belts. This one's locked, and that one is not locked, but I will check it, and I'll probably ship it off anyway just to have it checked. And then I can't remember if these seats have retractable buckles on this side or not, so when we get them out we'll look at all that. And I'm not going to do anything to the dash yet because I still want to be able to drive this thing around in case Mike gets back and can do the frame stuff. I don't want to have anything where it's not drivable. I can always stick that seat back in with a couple of bolts. So that is the plan. So I'm going to start it up for you so you can hear what it sounds like running now that it's had the push rod replaced. I just want to move it up closer to the shop. Okay, so I've got everything unbolted on these seats, all the trim and everything off. All I've got left to do is remove the power to them, and I want to unhook the batteries before I do that because there's 2 airbags in this entire, well, maybe more than that, vehicle that have not blown up, and that's in these seats, and I don't want any kind of a spark or anything when I'm unplugging that to make these airbags go off in the seats. So unhook the batteries, take the seats out, and then we can get this center console out and get to our airbag module. This bottom seat on this driver's side has got some wear on here and a couple little cuts right there. So I've got a new seat bottom to replace this with. So we'll see how that works when we get it in there to take it apart. Okay, so our seats are out, and man, is it dirty in here. So now let's go ahead and tackle getting the belts out and take that all the trim off that center pillar and then get those pulled out both sides. And on the seat, these I don't have to send these on in. They're just dumb things. They're just on a cable. They don't pull in. They're not charged or anything. So I don't have to send anything in from the seats. Just these 2 belts and the module. All right, so we've got the seat belts all out, and these things are locked up. So unless there's some trick to getting them unlocked after a wreck, I guess I'm gonna have to buy a new these that you adjust the seat belts up and down. And it's been a long time since I've done one of these center consoles, removed one, but as you can see, I've been messing around with a little bit. I've got the old nasty liners out of those, and then the next thing that you do is pop this up, and this whole little piece right here comes out, and then we'll unhook all the wires going to these power plugs and then see what's underneath it, because I can't remember. I know there's a bolt right here. I think the whole thing slides back. We'll just have to play with it as we go. All right, so the console is out and the airbag module is out, which is right there. It's very easy to get to once you get that out of there. So I've seen them where they're way up in there and hard to get out. But so now we'll get all that stuff shipped off, and next thing we'll do is vacuum some of this crud out of here and work on cleaning everything up inside.
Man, what a roller coaster this truck has been so far. We got the truck for a really good deal and get it back here and realize that we got scammed, and it was, patched up and someone did some work on it and then tried to cover it up so someone else would have to deal with it. And then we get some of the parts in, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty good deal because the parts were cheaper and stuff. And then we get the front end taken off, and there's extensive frame damage, and the truck has that horrible knocking sound, and then we get that figured out. It's something that's not that big of a deal. Kind of makes me think of 2 Chronicles 15:7, which says, "Be strong and do not lose courage, for your hard work will be rewarded." And so I think that sometimes whenever you're in a tough spot, or you have something that just doesn't seem to be going your way, we usually try to turn and look in the Bible. There's always a good word of encouragement in there for us. And so you guys are not going to see this truck next week. It's currently sitting at the frame shop waiting for some work to be done, to try to unfold that frame and frame horn there, and that'll take a little bit longer than what we've got between this video and next week's video. So we might go back to the 66 for a little bit and until we get the truck back. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button down below and make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss out on any notifications for future videos. And just have a great week, guys. See you later. And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.